Antagonists are very important pieces to any story. They come in all shapes and sizes and allow the writer to express their creativity to their limits in ways that they are usually restricted with their protagonists. The concept of evil has been explored for centuries in storytelling, and the dynamic between what's truly an evil person versus simply someone who has a different worldview to you is a strong force many writers use to bring life to their works. In anime, many writers have towed this fine margin to bring you some of your favorite characters. Pain from Naruto, Eren Yeager from Attack on Titan, Itachi and Sasuke Uchiha, also from Naruto, are characters that instantly come to mind who fit into the conversation of villain or anti-villain. As you may have noticed, 3 of them are from Naruto, and that may just be a personal bias. However, I believe Masashi Kishimoto is one of the writers who explores this the best and puts the most emphasis on it. This is one of the reasons for his success. However, we're not here to talk about that today. Today I'm exploring Hunter x Hunter's Chrollo. You guys specifically requested this character, and so I'm doing it. Leader of the Phantom Troupe and a fan favourite, I believe Chrollo slots perfectly into this category.
See, that's the reason I wanted to fulfill my dead friend's wish. It's what he would have wanted.
What wish?
To wreak havoc.
Chrollo is a leader of the Phantom Troupe, one of the most notorious criminal organizations in the Hunter x Hunter world. He is clearly held on a pedestal by his peers, who respect his position and use his word as final. From the get-go, the power he possesses is blatant. He has fully tamed and is in control of some of the most vicious criminals in the series. From watching this series, it is obvious that his authority is not up for discussion, and there is no evidence of any cracks in the concrete of the power dynamic of the group. Chrollo talks, Phantom Troupe listen. Instantly the audience is drawn into Chrollo. He is clearly very young, he has a strong presence among his peers. Why? How? These are the questions that subconsciously increase the aura of uncertainty around the character, and thus make him more interesting. Mystery breeds interest. The Phantom Troupe are the foundation of the story in the Yorknew City arc, one of Hunter x Hunter's best arcs, and as this arc unraveled, we were able to witness more and more of how the troupe operates. Chrollo's power is clear, and the viewer's attention is directed to this. However, after some more watching, another contradiction becomes obvious. He has ultimate control, yet does not come across as tyrannical at all. He is quiet, extremely observant, and listens more than he speaks. He honors the opinions of his troopmates and takes them into consideration. When he speaks, he is articulate and soft-spoken. His words are few, but they are precise and to the point. He usually communicates only with reason and rarely with emotion. One particular scene that highlights his intelligence and ability to reason and understand is when he broke down the fortune that was given to him, perfectly using the intel he was given to extract as much information as possible. The troupe often break into altercations due to differences in opinion in the arc. However, when Chrollo is present, he is able to perfectly diffuse these situations without taking sides or making his peers feel less significant or valued. He is eerily secure and comfortable in his position as the leader. Not once does he use fear or intimidation to put his peers back in line. He doesn't threaten punishment or wave carrots of reward to motivate his group. There's a deep sense of understanding in the group that glares at you throughout the arc, but is never expressed into words. What is their philosophy? What is their motivation? Why is he their leader? And why does he command so much respect from his peers? These are some of the questions the viewer is left with, and I will use them to explore the character of Chrollo further in this video. The Phantom Troupe are also known as a spider, which is one of the aliases they use. We find out that this is more than just a symbol to their group, but also describes the entire dynamic of the group. In a flashback to the origins of the group, a monologue Chrollo gave to his peers is shown, where he describes himself as the head of the spider and them as the legs. In the character's words, "I am the head, and you are the legs of the spider. Natural law dictates that the legs blindly follow the head. However, this simply represents a chain of command. It does not apply to my life or death. If I happen to die, one of you can replace me, and there may come a time when a leg has more importance than the head. Make the right call. My orders are top priority. However, I am not your top priority. Our goal is not to keep an individual alive, but the spider." Instances where the dynamic of the troupe is stated so obviously are few and far between. Therefore, in regards to getting answers to our questions, this is gold that I will refer to throughout. In a couple of sentences, Chrollo managed to communicate to his peers his expectations, his and their standing in the group, and a chain of priority to be used when making decisions. He makes it clear that his word is final when he says that his word is top priority. However, he cleverly differentiates between this authority and his life. He makes a distinction to emphasize that the two are unrelated, and from this we can deduce one thing that is absolute. His motivations are not self-serving or related to himself. He makes it clear that he is as disposable as the others, yet that his authority while he is here is not. Therefore, this must mean that he values authority not to elevate himself, but instead because he sees it necessary to keeping the group alive. Togashi gives us one answer. However, rather than satisfying the questions, this answer just serves to get us further invested into his character, while more questions arise. Why is he so self-sacrificing? If he does not value his life, what is his motive? When a villain is self-serving, it makes understanding them self-explanatory. We've seen it over and over. Said villain wants authority to gain more money, status, and power. End of story. Togashi throws us off by giving the villain of his story a moral framework that is separate to himself. If we go back to the plot, after the Troupe's attack on the auction, they find out that the mafia groups were informed about their plan and therefore anticipated an attack. This left the Troupe questioning how they found out, with the first suspicion being that a traitor among them had notified them. This is the most obvious explanation that most people would come to. However, Chrollo disproves this theory, saying that there would be no incentive for any of the Troupe members. Money, glory, and prestige. Do you truly believe that any of us care for those things? Other than the fact that this displays Chrollo's exceptional ability to reason and come to a conclusion that considers multiple perspectives, it also provides us with another piece of information to answer our question. If money, glory, and prestige are so insignificant in the eyes of the Troupe that they can use it as an absolute to draw conclusions from, what are Chrollo's and hence the Troupe's motivations? Why would they target merchandise from an auction if they don't care about money or reputation? Surely these are the only two things that can be gained from such a mission. We can delve further into the backstory of the Troupe to get a better idea. The Troupe originates from Meteor City, which in Leorio's words, is a city populated by people who as far as society is concerned don't exist. The city is home to 10 million people, yet officially it is known as unpopulated. Therefore, the city itself has been outcast and not even given the simple honor of being acknowledged, let alone helped. The city is also used as a garbage dump, where all sorts of trash and even people are disposed of. The people have no official identities and therefore technically do not exist. As a result, they are also perfect recruits to be hired as hitmen, assassins, etc. The Mafia took advantage of this and established a trade relationship, where they supplied the residents with weapons in return for their services. This leads me to my next point, that the Troupe are essentially the world's unwanted children. Looking at it from this perspective makes a lot more sense of their, at first glance, contradictory actions. They represent the resentment of a city, which the world left to rot and refused to acknowledge. Naturally, it therefore seems that they feel no moral obligations to the world. Their actions, like the attack on the auction, reflect this. These loud, ruthless attacks are to validate their own existence to the world. The Troupe is another part of this. Chrollo carved them an identity by creating a group that they are part of, that is significant around the Hunter x Hunter world. In the series, everyone knows who the Phantom Troupe are. However, many only find out that they originate from Meteor City later on. They are almost like the quiet vengeance of Meteor City. I say quiet because it doesn't seem like they are trying to build a reputation based on their desire to be seen and heard. I base this off the fact that Chrollo clearly rejected glory or prestige as important, as mentioned earlier, as well as the fact that people only find out that they originate from Meteor City later in the story. If they had wanted people to know, them being from Meteor City would have been better communicated. Identity is what they lacked, so they embraced the Troupe. Chrollo used this whole to build a strong organization. The organization gives them an identity and a purpose, therefore they are loyal only to it and hold no moral obligations to anyone else. They abide by no laws other than the rules of the spider. The rules of society are irrelevant to them. A prime example is when Uvo, a member of the Troupe, explains that he doesn't like the idea of money. If he wants something, he takes it. They live for the Troupe, die for the Troupe. This explains why they'll take lives with no regret and then mourn the death of a comrade, or die for the sake of the organization. Togashi questions this unusual behavior through Gon's confusion, while observing this camaraderie makes him question whether they are so different to him after all. I don't think it can be argued that they aren't evil, however they do show glimpses of a moral framework within the organization. Still, I don't see an end goal for them. It seems that they live by the philosophy of keeping the spider alive and nothing else. All that being said, Chrollo still seems different from the other members of the Troupe. He seems like he is as unpredictable as they come, and that the understanding he has with his fellow Troupe members is not one that needs to be vocalized. The Troupe also allows individuals to pursue their own interests without being questioned. It's not military-esque in his setup, and this starts with Chrollo. Despite his very calculated and intelligent nature, he seems willing to throw caution to the fire and allow chaos to unfold. We are reminded multiple times of his lack of attachment to his own self. First, when he attaches no importance to his life in the face of a threat against the organization, and second, when he was captured by Kurapika and was eerily calm, describing him being held hostage as no different to an afternoon coffee break. He is a very, very well written villain. Although his actions are not justified, he is an icon of freedom who seems to do what he wants, when he wants, reveling and executing on his plans weirdly without being attached to the outcome. His popularity as a result is no surprise to me. Characters that represent freedom, whether they are good or evil, usually are well received in storytelling, and this is most likely because the desire to be free is a very human thing. Something that stood out in the scene where he was being held hostage was how Melody, the character who was able to read people's emotions based on hearing their heartbeat, confirmed to Kurapika that Chrollo was being genuine and claiming that he felt no fear based on the predicament. His claim that he has no value as a hostage was also confirmed. Of course, from the speech to the rest of the troupe, we already know this. However, she also mentions that he's accepted death and that he walks with it every day. Those were her exact words. This is interesting. A villain who doesn't fear death and is not self-interested. And if we go back to the second attack on the auction following the death of Uvo, he wept at the loss of his friend. These are traits that are usually only present in the hero of the story. Togashi does a good job maintaining this aura of mystery around Chrollo throughout the arc. He always reveals just enough to progress the story, however, always opens doors to more questions. I've covered what the most likely foundation the troupe is built on is, based on their backstory and behavior, but Togashi never intends to allow you to fully understand. He uses Chrollo to keep the viewer on their toes, not knowing what his next move could be, and one scene reveals that this is because Chrollo himself may be unsure of his motives. After capturing Gon and Killua, Gon asks him how he could kill people that have nothing to do with him. Instantly, he comments on the fact that Gon seems excessively hostile for someone who just surrendered. He then answers by saying, "Why? Indeed, because they have nothing to do with us." No, on second thought, it isn't that simple. How to verbally express our motives. I'm not fond of it. But oddly enough, or perhaps it's not that odd, is that the key to understanding myself? I revisited this quote after writing most of the script, and it's fascinating how this monologue covers step by step the progression I went through trying to understand the motives of the troupe. He went through all the same stages as I did, and this just shows that maybe he also doesn't understand himself fully. However, his awareness of this fascinates me, along with the fact that he is actually interested in working towards understanding himself. First, when he responds with why, indeed, he's validating Gon's confusion, demonstrating that he is aware of the fact that his actions are unusual. He then uses the rhetorical, because they have nothing to do with us. This is what we went through with the theory that they kill random people, precisely because of the fact that they have nothing to do with them, i.e., as we said, they feel no moral obligations to them, which is by no means justified, yet can be understood by tracing back to their roots and upbringing. He then rejects this, saying that it isn't that simple, which I covered when I mentioned that Togashi is still leaving something out. He then asks himself how to verbally express our motives. I'm not fond of it, to emphasize that he himself is unsure of how to verbalize his motives. Earlier I mentioned how after observation, there seems to be an understanding in the troupe that is beyond words, or maybe beyond their capacity to explain. This is confirmed here. He then says that maybe being able to verbalize his motives is the key to understanding himself. This also confirms the analogy that Chrollo is a representation of unbound freedom. He's clearly discarded any mental breaks that are usually present in an individual and are conditioned in by the environment. Instead of seeking to understand, then act, as most people who act on their beliefs, whether those are in line with the truth or not, Chrollo acts and then tries to understand. He doesn't fully understand, and he recognizes this. Maybe this is why you don't get a sense of pure evil that you would from a typical villain. Usually, villains in storytelling are intentional in their acts, and have a concrete reason behind them. By removing the rules or conditions that trap the standard villain in a box, Togashi has succeeded in writing a mysterious character who's capable of anything. A character who acts in line with himself is infinitely more flexible than one who is dependent on rules they've set for themselves. This is because one reacts to the environment, whereas the other is conditioned to act in a certain way. Chrollo is clearly the former. Him picking up on Gon's hostility is just another instance of him being able to see through people. Another one would be when he notices that Gon and Killua are hiding something. It's clear that he has a pretty good grasp on human nature, and naturally this can only develop by being interested in trying to understand others. A villain who explores the natures of others and is open to other perspectives than his. From the iconic scene where he states his intention to wreak havoc, honouring his late friend's wish, to carefully masterminding the inner workings of an elite criminal organization, Chrollo is truly a unique villain. Togashi has succeeded in writing a character whose next move is never obvious and can alternate between cold, calm, rational decision making to unfiltered chaos and havoc. And the best part is that it all somehow makes sense. Togashi's ability to really humanize his characters has clearly again worked in his favour, by giving his stories the ability to expand and develop in unique and unimagined ways, yet at the same time remain decipherable and relatable. Chrollo represents a character he clearly went through a lot of thought to write, and writing this video has given me, and hopefully you, a better idea of the inner workings of the character, as well as an idea of why people enjoyed his contribution to the story as much as they did. I have done a full breakdown of Kurapika previously, which can be found on my channel, and the support I received on that video led to the creation of this one. If you haven't already, watch that video, drop a like and subscribe, and I would appreciate suggestions on videos you'd like to see me create in the future. That's it from me today. Thank you and take care.